so much for joining us this evening for our special Board of Education meeting. The time is 7:05. Roll call, please.
Okay, Simmons.
Present.
Nelson.
Here.
It's all about keeping things going.
Briggs.
Here.
Paredes.
Here.
Huckabee. Here. Worth.
Here, and a quorum is present. You know, John, that doesn't mean we'll have to. Okay, so we are going to move through the agenda. We have several items tonight to discuss. The first item on the agenda is audience comments. We have two people who have signed up. The first person is Christina.
With my props, because I'm a mom. Okay, so, good evening, board and school members. My name is Christina Leestra, and I'm a parent from Surrey Middle School where I have a fourth and a first grader. And tonight I come before you to readdress the subject of our PE, music, and art teachers sharing their time between Surrey Hills and Baltimore. If you recall, I addressed the board the same topic last June, and additionally I emailed Dr. Smith last week to share my opinions, but I wanted to share my perspective with you all tonight. If you look at this box, in the box is a puzzle, a small one, but a mighty one that will grow and change, but all the pieces are still necessary in completing the puzzle, so all pieces. So this box right here represents the school, and the glue that holds this box together represents the principal. The box contains many pieces, as I said. Let's call each puzzle piece classroom teacher, specialist teacher, support staff, nurses, aides, secretaries, custodians, all the people who come in contact and influence our precious children each day. This is where community is formed in the school. I think we can all agree that our teachers are the heart and soul of the classroom and of the school. Classroom teachers have such an impact on our students because they spend the most time with them on a given day. Making connections, forming bonds, and really being a part of a child's social and emotional development are all pieces to the puzzle of a whole child. But I think we cannot forget a few other pieces to this puzzle, which are special teachers, specifically PE, arts, and music. At the end of last year, Serena's PE, art, and music teachers were given an additional piece of the puzzle, one that didn't belong in their hypothetical box. They were asked to share half of their time between Flossmoor Hills and Serena. This meant that their mornings would be spent at Flossmoor Hills and their afternoons at Serena Hills. I feel that this situation has damaged the sense of community in our school, and I would assume that the same goes for Flossmoor. I understand that Heather shares, but I don't know that, so I'm not speaking on that. As we all know, teachers and students form bonds not only in the classroom during instruction, but in passing in hallways or during lunch and recess. That time is now less frequent and actually almost non-existent, especially at Flossmoor Hills, now that there is no physical presence of a special teacher in-house. When extra moments allow, the special teachers were able to pop in classrooms and help students with activities on various tasks. A gift indeed to the classroom teachers to have an extra set of hands in the classroom. That piece of the puzzle is now intimately present in the community of our teachers and students, which causes gaps in our puzzle. Specialist teachers are seen as less now, and I know this impacts students. It has with mine. This does not help in any way of setting a tone for restorative justice. How can we demonstrate to students what a whole child looks like when a piece of the puzzle is missing? The sense of community we form with each piece of this puzzle is important for a child, but so is having a happy and content teacher who loves coming to work each day. Our teachers are getting burnt out from traveling back and forth between schools. They were tasked with an unnecessary hazard of having to drive to and from an additional school, regardless of weather, in the middle of the day when they wouldn't have had to ordinarily. When I'm in the building volunteering or visiting for parent activity day, I see their frazzled look on their faces. It's obvious they are tired. I sure know I would be exhausted. Even those quick hellos I have had in the past have become few and far between because they are not in the building as often, thus breaking community with parents. Lastly, and most importantly, I hear it from my kids that their teachers are never there anymore, and that's a hurt. The community they have already built is crumbling. Obviously, we are facing the potential of losing quality teachers. That is something we cannot afford, regardless of cost savings. There is money to be spent in the district. To my understanding, this decision was made based on low enrollment at Boston Hills and Heather, I believe, and more recently, I was made aware that actual projections for enrollment will be lower for the upcoming school year at Serena. I don't want to discredit Dr. Smith's fiscal responsibleness in taking all aspects of cutting costs into consideration, so thank you for that. I will call that board meeting last year, Dr. Smith, your reasoning behind sharing is that you wanted to come home. That you wanted to save the money to spend it for more resources, specialist teachers. I also respect those reasonings. There's a great need for all of the schools for research, in all of the schools for research teachers. Furthermore, I also understand that the percentage of actual instruction time is low in both schools, but why couldn't we continue to allow those teachers to use their extra time in their respective schools to function in the capacity that they work, filling in throughout the school where they were needed? All of our schools deserve to have 3 in-house special teachers in the building at all times, especially when there are the funds available to do so. These are our tax dollars and they are our children. It is not fair to the students to be cut short. They are not just PE, music, and art teachers. They are teachers impacting students. They are a piece of the puzzle and it cannot be done on a part-time basis. I understand that the district is always in cost-saving mode, but at what cost? What is the price that we are willing to pay? Are we willing to risk good teachers leaving? Are we willing to risk the lack of family environment at a school? Sometimes saving a buck looks good in the present, but it has an expensive long-term effects in the end. I believe this is one of those situations. Cutting corners, especially with teachers, is not always fast. In fact, I'd say it's never fast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Christina, thank you so much for your comments. I think you brought up a number of good points. We certainly share your feeling that our special teachers are amazing, and all of our teachers are. When it comes to making decisions about our programs, it's what's best for kids. Right? I think the board certainly always wants to save money when it's appropriate, but not at the expense of our children or not at the expense of our programs. It was about this time last year we were having this initial conversation, maybe a little bit earlier. And our conversation really revolved around wanting to put more resources into the classroom. And when you do the formulas for what the specials could be, whether it's art, music, PE, et cetera, our elementary schools would show that we did not need full-time people. And so we had some retirements, and so what we did is we took those dollars, those people, we returned them to the buildings and reading specialists. As we looked at our data, as we looked at student needs, we had a lot of children who needed more support. And so we've had reading specialists in buildings in those positions. You're right, our enrollment for next year is fluctuating. I think we talked about Serena potentially being down another section next year, which creates some more space in the specialist schedule. But what we always want to do is make sure that we're offering the best program for our kids. And if we're talking about creating relationships with children between special teachers, et cetera, I think we need to look at how we can do that more effectively. But I think you're spot on when it comes to the fact that our building climates are based on strong relationships between our staff members and our students. We love what our teachers do with our kids and how much time they spend, and certainly, our team at Serena and Heather and Boston Hills and Western do a great job. Parker does not share any specials because they were self-contained. So, don't know that I anticipate any adjustments with the specialist teachers, or at least recommending an adjustment. But I certainly hear what you're saying, and we're going to have those relationships with our team.
Yeah, I'm just curious about this, but I want to make sure that I understand all the pieces to the puzzle. So we are still having physical education there at that school, correct?
Yes.
None of that has been impacted?
We haven't cut any program.
No arts, no music, everything
No.
is still in place?
Correct. What we had is we had full-time teachers. So for example, at one of our buildings, depending on the formula that you look at, we don't even need a half-time person, but we had full-time people. And so, what Christina referenced, they would have 63% of their school day not teaching PE, for example, but they were full-time PE teachers. So they would go into classrooms and they would work with teachers and they would do all of those other things. And I think our conversation really revolved around, if we're having PE teachers teach reading, why don't we hire somebody who has a reading specialist degree in order to deliver those services? We want the most qualified people. And since we had some retirements and other people shifting, we weren't releasing teachers or doing anything like that. So we didn't change any programs, we just redirected how we're providing services to the kids.
Do the specific, I know we are consistently talking about how to provide greater consistency across all schools in the district. Is it helpful? I'm just trying to see maybe some other benefits of having one teacher that goes to 2 schools. Are there benefits, at least from your perspective, or that might have been articulated by any of those specials in being able to see 2 different populations and to create greater consistency between schools and all?
Cross-training.
And we haven't talked about that. I would say just on average, our specialist teachers probably articulate some of the best in the district. They're a much smaller group.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more organic for them to just pick up the phone and call, hey, we're working on this project in the first quarter. What does it look like in your building, et cetera. So I think they've always done a lot of that work towards consistency.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one other community member who has signed up, Mr. Andy, is it Weaver?
Yes. Hi. Andy Weaver, parent of a 6th grader at junior high. Thanks for giving me an opportunity for us to speak. I just wanted to express a concern that I've had since my son's been at Parker, and it sort of escalates slowly until I feel like I wanted to come and address the board. There's probably not a single day goes by that my son doesn't come home speaking about some sort of fight or aggressive behavior going on either in the lunchroom or in PE class. Luckily, he has not been on the receiving end of any of those particularly, but just the story of the general aggression that many of the students in CASA has, and it seems to be some of the same kind of case back and forth. I have brought this to attention to the gym teacher and the vice principal and received tepid response at best. It's kind of like, no, lots of kids in the gym, can't watch them all, or, something like that. Never really a response maybe as a parent looking for to receive. I'm not coming here with asking anything in particular, just sharing a concern as a parent, and the type of things I do here are very alarming. I mean, these are 6th graders, they're not high schoolers or what have you. I understand the gym, PE a long time, they really run around, but it's concerning. So I think I'm not sure about the discipline that some of these kids may or may not be receiving, or services that the family are offering, counseling, etc. But it does take its toll on all of the children, especially ones that try to avoid situations like that. So yeah, it's just a statement. And I just want to make sure the board is aware.
Is this your first child going through Parker?
It is, yes. And I do have a history of hearing of stories of Parker, and we did not come into any sort of assumptions. And by and large, Parker has been a fantastic school, and the support we received in certain particular ways have been great. But it just seems that a lot of a group of children, I should say, are acting and behaving in ways that aren't becoming up 6th grade.
I do have one question. I just want to clarify something. You said you spoke to the teacher, the PE teacher, correct? And you spoke to an assistant principal there too. Have you spoken to the principal at all?
I have not spoken to the principal. In fact, I did not receive a response from the assistant principal who was copying our emails. Just a response from the PE teacher singularly saying, I'll move your kid to a different locker room, as opposed to actually addressing the problem of the specific violence that I mentioned.
And how long ago was that? I'm just curious.
That particular incident was about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to be clear, did you send an email directly to the assistant principal?
A single email to the teacher of PE class and the assistant principal, both from the same email.
Okay, as on the address line, not,
Yes, no, on the address line.
not a CC.
No, not CC. CC my wife, but the PE teacher responded just to me.
Okay. I take, what your son says, face value. The other day I asked my own son, Dr. Essie, so, tell me about what's going on in Parker. He says, oh, it's great, I love it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I asked him a few other sort of guiding questions. Is there anyone, how are the kids? Or do you think they're nice kids? He said, oh yeah, they're all great. They're all really nice kids. I mean, to some degree, and I really impressed him, he said, no, really, everybody's terrific. But I think that's his experience and that's what he sees. So I think that sometimes, and I see this, again, going back 35 years, where, the Parker stories or the middle school stories, I think they tend to be episodic. That sometimes they, depending on the kid, mine sees the world in rose-colored glasses. Other people are very, clear, how they see it, this has been verified by other people, so I think that this is an issue that is ongoing, if I'm not mistaken. In climate and culture, I would encourage, you to certainly follow up, if you have a follow-up email. But perhaps when we get more into the, school improvement plans, this is something that will be addressed over time, but I do know that this is something that, we're as concerned about. And really, for the last 35 years, it's a topic that comes up.
And again, junior high had a rough time. I was not want to be a sixth grade PE teacher, for sure. But just want to make sure that at the lunchroom and at DE that they have the appropriate resources to monitor these children. There was a fight today at lunch. Some kid was on the ground getting punched multiple times in minutes, before adults intervened. And then those same kids were back in the hallways 20 minutes later. So, my kid was punching some kid, even not being in school for the rest of the day. So, that type of story is something that I get often. Thank God, one of those parents. But, anyways, the resources, we just want to make sure they have them available at the time when the kids are in the community.
Well, thank you very much for bringing your concerns to the board. I think at a minimum, hopefully you will receive an email response from the school building administrator who you emailed.
Yeah, and I'll call you, maybe if that's okay. If that's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now, this is always the highlight of our board meeting. Student recognition, district spelling bee participants.
The board representative.
Take your daughter.
I just want to say thank you to the board. This is a special time to recognize the good things in our district and to promote the students and their hard work. So we just wanted to say congratulations. We have several tiers to our spelling bee. We begin at the elementary level where the 3, 4, and 5 grade students practice and then come together in December for a week. We take the 2 representatives of that. We come together with the junior high students and then compete. So we had 17 students this year that tried out for our beat. It was held on January 17th and we went for almost 16 rounds, which included some very challenging vocabulary rounds as well. And then we moved on to the next level of competition, which was in February 11th at Southland College Prep. It was in Richmond Park. And so our winner of the district B went on to that. And so I'd like to share several of our students that came tonight, but also recognize all 17 students that participated. Do you want to have the honors?
So when I call your name, if you would please come up and join us, and we'll have awkwardly stand here and take pictures of Brooklyn Thomas.
Brooklyn's here.
Alhier Velasquez. Satya Viner. Kirk McLaurin. Ronell Harris. Mia Caporale. Straight up. Luke Phillips. Logan Jackson. Annalise Latham. Rachel Briggs.
Go Rachel.
Grothaus, Kiera Jones, Emily Thompson, Madison Jones, and then our runner-up overall, Noelle Dolan. And our district winner, Kaden Chambers. Okay, moms, if you here, come through. So we take pictures? No. Of course. Moms and dads, please take all the pictures. You won't go back around. Great job.
Okay, Noelle, you were runner-up, right? What was the word? Do you remember? We're gonna have Steve spell it.
It was vocabulary round?
Okay, you're up.
What?
Anti-disestablishmentarian.
No, okay.
Starts with an A.
Okay, great.
Brayden, do you remember Brayden?
Congratulations, everyone.
Chivalrous. Hayden's word was chivalrous.
I had to find it.
Anyone want to try it?
Steve.
She can spell it.
It's about, which is of course that the knights would run.
Always extra, always extra. Can you just, can you spell it?
I literally looked at what on a Snapple cat the other day. No.
Okay. So Steve, you lost and you. Okay, next item on the agenda, which will be equally as exciting, is the district leadership team.
Oh, yeah, no, that actually is pretty exciting. So the team took a pass and worked on our portrait of a graduate. The district leadership team, in our conversations, really focused on what we want our kids to be when they walk out of Parker. And what commitments are willing to make to children when they come in kindergarten as we're helping them throughout our system. So we looked at a few samples, took a lot of work from our previous meeting where we identified, at least as a rough draft, all the characteristics and expectations that we have for our children. We tried to group them under some main umbrellas, and so our work over the next week will be to do a little bit of wordsmithing, and then when we come back together mid-March, we will start layering those characteristics and behaviors underneath the umbrellas. Once we get that down to 3 to 5 under each one, we'll bring it to the board for conversation. Because ultimately that will be our target. As we move into our strategic plan work, all of our decisions will be towards helping children reach that target. And I think that's why it's important that it's clear, that it's engaging, and ultimately that we can deliver it. So a lot of good work from the district leadership team. We meet again in about 2.5 weeks.
And when you bring that to the board, will it be, I mean, I think it would be great to have a visual of what
Oh, absolutely.
looks like.
Yep.
And ideally, I think, sorry, but said ideally, you can have, once this is finalized, like having the portrait up in all of our schools, so that it's something that's front and center, that people can see and feel and touch every single day they walk into the building. Great. Community Engagement Committee.
So we had a community engagement committee meeting last week, and I know Steve can weigh in on a few of these pieces. Amy Kent has been working on our communications plan. So we did the scope survey, community members without children, staff members, parents. We have a pretty good idea of how we communicate and our strengths and our opportunities for improvement. So we've laid out a communications plan. It's about a 3-year plan. It goes from anywhere from 35,000 feet down to right on the ground. Here's the specific activity that we're going to do. We had some initial feedback. We're going to add more of the specific events, experiences, etc. and then we'll come to the board. But we'll also want to share that with the community as well, get some input on whatever, that's the way people want to be engaged with and communicate with. So I think it's a good start. And I know that Amy's worked really hard on that. And ultimately, we've made some really great strides this year. We're sending out the board previews, we're sending out monthly newsletters, we're putting out more information on social media than we ever have. This is the next step to formalize a few of those processes. And as Steve references, not to steal your thunder, but in our conversations with Jody Bryant at Homewood Flossmoor High School, you just accumulate these things. You accumulate the one-page promotional materials. You accumulate, the 5 things to know, and then all of a sudden, after a few years, you have a solid program that, as long as you maintain it, you're sharing the right information and hitting your groups with the information that they're looking for. So that's where we're going for, and Amy's done a great job so far. I would think we would have a draft of that to the board at the cow in April. I think that's our.
Yeah, and I just wanted to just echo that this is something that is really a new approach, and it starts with really honest data about our communication. This is something that 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, parents have come and said this is something that's really important to us, and over the years, teachers have said this is something that's really important to us. Community members have said this is something that's really important to us, and I think this is a very integral response to that request. And it's something it's like a relationship that you're building on, and part of the relationship is that it's like a living document. You're always gathering more input and more engagement from the community, and that really helps us to learn how to communicate better. So really, thank you to the community for this constant input to help us shape how we can better communicate to the community, to our various stakeholders. And again, I think this has just been tremendous. And I said it the other night that even though this is not something like we're going to do a weekend like OK Go, it's something that we're really looking to very intentionally add value for our community and really build those communication lines to really all of our stakeholders.
My only comment is to think about how the communication plan, especially since it's a 3-year plan, how that will work in concert with the strategic plan and
Right.
how that will be folded into that, since we'll soon start the strategic planning process.
Absolutely, and that's something that we even had a little conversation about 2 meetings ago, where this is really a great foothold as we step toward our new strategic plan, because again, that communication piece is really just a vital element. So I think this is going to make the process really smoother, which again, I saw in the agenda, we had, we're going to be discussing this a little bit, and I can see how it's sort of dovetails.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
So we had a great turnout last Tuesday for our dessert with D161. We talked about assessments, which typically is not the most exciting topic, but I think Annabelle did a great job having a conversation with families about the importance of the data that we collect. Obviously, we talked about our state assessments and how we use that information and how it's used to provide a rating for the school district. But more organically, what type of information are we collecting in the classroom? How are teachers using that information to make decisions about children that affect acceleration, that affect interventions, that affect all these different pieces? So we have a few things that we're going to send out based on that meeting, and we want to send out some information on the Illinois Learning Standards, a few exemplars. I think it was a great question a couple of families asked about, well, what are the expectations for writing and math? And so we can send out a few of those examples. Our position, and I think this is shared, is that we don't teach to tests, but if we're teaching the standards, we're preparing our kids effectively. Especially with our new literacy program, ReadyGen, the standards dovetail perfectly to what's expected from us, from the children. And I think there's a high level of rigor there that in classes and buildings and grade levels, we're seeing a lot of good growth. And so we're excited to see where that leads us at the end of the year. But we have our next dessert with D161 coming up on April 4th. This is the big one. This is the 5th to 6th grade transition. Last year we had somewhere around 80 people. This is big, and we heard from Dad today, making that shift to having a first-time 6th grader and just what it means to go to Parker Junior High. I mean, Parker, in a number of districts, would be the largest high school in the district. And we have some amazing programs and offerings in that building that we want to make sure that our families can take advantage of. So April 4th at, I believe it's at 6:30 in the evening, we will have our transition dessert with D161 again. We'll personally reach out to all of our 5th grade families. We'll send them some information just on what we're going to do in the conversations that we'll have, try to get as many of them out as we can. But it was well attended last year. The families shared a lot of feedback. We answered a lot of questions with acceleration or launch and all these different pieces. So we're looking forward to that on April 4th. Registration is here. I'm sure you've seen the signs if they weren't blown over from the wind last night, but kindergarten registration is here. It's March 6th. It's next week at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8:30 at the different buildings. Again, we have signs everywhere. Amy Kent is going to be posting on social media, and we'll keep pushing the information out as much as possible. We want to get as many kindergarten students registered as possible. To Christina's point earlier, we have to know who's coming. And we want to be able to plan effectively and make sure that we have the right number of sections and specialist teachers and all these different things that go into the school district. Well, it starts with our clients, and our clients are our students. So we're really encouraging all of our families to get out and get registered, especially if they have kindergarten-age students. And then after we get through kindergarten, we'll start with residency verifications and all those different pieces that will begin on May 1st, and then I think we have 5 other dates in May spread out, and then June, July, and August. So really, once we get into March, the registration window begins, and we'll be starting to pick up more focus on the 1920 school year. So that's the end of my report.
Any questions or comments? We'll keep moving. On to our discussion items. We have about 11 or 12 items under our discussion. The first item is strategic planning process.
Okay, so we are heading into the 5th year of our strategic plan, our current strategic plan. Thanks so much, parents, for coming out. Hope you enjoyed a great night. Feel free to stick around. It gets really interesting here for the 40 minutes. Okay. Sorry. But we are in year 4, currently going into year 5 of our strategic plan. And as we've had a number of conversations, we want to renew that plan. We want to make sure that we have a guide. This will dovetail very closely with our portrait of a graduate. But as we've talked, I've been very clear about whatever this process is, it has to lead to specific action steps and expectations. And it's one of the things that in our current plan, coming in to year 3 of it, it's been hard to pick up some of those pieces. So we need a plan that's going to be measurable, that the board can look at it at the end of year 1 and say, yes, we did it, no, we didn't, we got our target, or hey, we met our target, it wasn't far enough, let's tweak, let's make these changes and go forward. The plan from the Consortium for Educational Change can deliver that. It is costly. There are a number of days of consultant support, I think 8 full days on site. Most of those are split by half days because that work gets a little bit thick. When I've seen this process implemented in the past, it was very stakeholder-centric. Again, community members, students, children, or community members without children, really trying to hit all the different people that depend on District 161, whether it's for an education or for property values. And I think that's really important as we're setting the strategic plan. So there's no recommendation for action at this time. I did reach out to Bob, who did the previous plan. I think his dance card is a little bit full with work that they're doing right now, so he's not interested in moving forward.
Do you have other folks to contact?
No, there's another vendor, but it's incredibly pricey. And it's not as much the strategic planning process as it is how information is exchanged. It's called thought exchange, and I think it's a really cool looking piece of software. So essentially, it helps you focus your work. So as you're collecting comments and input from the community, it gives people an opportunity to weigh in on it. And in theory, the cream rises to the top. It's about a $25,000 piece of software. And so I would tend to say we have other ways to figure it out, with a little bit more elbow grease.
I'm looking at Fran as you say.
Well, I didn't make eye contact.
I like to see Fran's facial expression.
No. So this is a program that works. I've seen it in person, and it leads to very, very clear expectations and concrete work.
Just as a quick comment, I know that CEC was one of the companies that we looked at 5 years ago, and they had a very impressive presentation. Now does the CEC, they've been doing a lot of the research with a lot of other work with our district already, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, and I spoke with Perry. He would be the one.
Yeah, he's terrific.
If you know Perry Solden, he would be the one to come on and lead our work.
Fantastic. And also, just out of curiosity, does the CEC also work with Homewood Flossmoor at all?
They may be members, but I know that they did not do their strategic plan. But HF may be a member of CEC.
All right.
Any other questions about the strategic plan? The only thing I can't, well, we'll wait until there's more information for you to share regarding specific contracts or proposals. But when we did the last one was, I think I came onto the board right at the tail end of that, but I don't feel like I can articulate what the process was for involving teacher input. I can with community broadly speaking, but I definitely want to make sure that teachers are part of the strategic planning process this year. So whoever we select, that should be part of it.
The plan is in there. It's 25 pages total. It's another. One of the additional pieces. You can see it, but I think you're right. I think teachers will have a large role to play, just like the parents. Like I said, even children, especially in an elementary district, can have a lot to share. And it's a combination of, say, initial planning meetings, which we would probably want to access our district leadership team to help provide some guidance to them, and then on to the larger groups, and then obviously the board is directly involved with all of this. So I think it's an impressive way through, and it delivers results. So I think it'd be a good move for us if we can bring this back on March 11th.
Winter 2019 data and SIP updates.
I told the parents it would do better. We have Amabel and the principals are just going to give a brief update on the school improvement plans. We have our data from the winter map assessments. The buildings have been finishing up their data days and meetings, and we wanted to make sure that we brought that back in for discussion.
So before our principals begin, I just wanted to remind everyone that we try to model a continuous improvement process with our school improvement plan. So we met with each building leadership team prior to the winter map assessment to do a pulse check on how we're doing with goals, adult indicators, student indicators, and action items within the plans. Those plans have been updated, and we always encourage and allow for course correction throughout the school year, and want schools to make adjustments to their plan and make sure that the things that we said we're going to address are being addressed. After that, schools go back and meet with their building leadership teams, or principals go back and meet with their building leadership teams and make additional adjustments after the winter map data. I think it's important to point out that the winter map data is not the end goal, it's not the end target. Our spring data is really what tells us the story of our school year. Initial glance as just overall averages for our percent of students meeting their targets for this year in ELA. On average, 62% of our students are meeting their growth targets across our schools. For math, it's 67%. It's a little bit higher from 2018, 61% and 66% respectively. So each of our schools will share a quick summary of where they are with their winter math data, as well as the strengths and opportunities within their data and action steps between now and the end of the school year. And we will start with Parker.
Sorry, I'm now that we have our logo, the podium becomes a focal point of what we're going to fix next. So, all right. Yeah, it's
Well, I didn't recognize that podium.
It becomes a podium. That's
It's
right.
like a music
Good evening. So I'm here to share with Parker just an update as far as on our school improvement plan. And so you all received the data, and so we're happy to report that at this point, in terms of math, we've met our math goal. And so we're going to look and hopefully, again, as you said, Angela said before, this is the midpoint, and so we want to make sure that we exceed this by the end of the year. When we look across each grade level, our RIT scores increased in both reading and math, and so we're excited about that. We saw growth as far as our special ed students, and also even our low income, if you look at the target, just with those being our target areas for our end of the year part assessments. And so it's good to see that some growth is being made there. And so we also looked at some of our opportunities. And so looking at 6th grade and 8th grade math, also looking at the geometry strand is an area for us. And so again, looking at the data, looking at areas that we can improve on, and our action steps as far as moving forward. And so one piece we're excited about is to be able to increase our support in ELA and math during the school day, and also as far as on the weekends. And so we have our Saturday school, but we're also looking to offer tutoring for students as far as on Sundays. So we're excited about that opportunity, and also extra support during the day. One of our challenges is to have, with the number of interventions that we need, not having enough space, and also, well, I would say we're making the space, but the number of teachers to be able to implement the interventions. And so being able to partner and provide support for our students, we're excited to have that opportunity. We're very fortunate to work with our coaches and also outside consultants to continue to help us to improve the quality of our instruction. We're also working to increase parent communication, particularly as far as with those students that are not performing well, and those students that are in interventions. We will continue to work on our ESSA plan, and our school improvement plan. And we're excited to start a new partnership with Silverstone, who will, again, help us to be able to plan out as we move forward for the rest of the year, moving forward, again, to address our deficits. And so we're happy about that, beginning that partnership, and that's really a focus on instruction. So we'll continue to train and monitor the implementation of capturing kids' hearts as well. So, one of the pieces we wanted to be able to report out, as well as just in terms of the implementation of capturing kids' hearts. And so we actually, I would say the data is not conclusive. Just in, not all of our students completed the survey, but overwhelming our strengths in implementing Capturing Kids' Hearts is our social contracts and engaging students as they come in the door. And the biggest area for improvement for us is using the 4 questions and also the launch at the end. And so also had an opportunity to meet with our Principals Advisory Committee, and one of the pieces that they spoke about was being one, they do feel the difference as far as in the building. And so they're saying, they even mentioned the STEP program, and they were interestingly happy that that is no longer in place, but they felt that just a much more positive school culture. And also, when I asked about the 4 questions, because I shared them with the Principals Advisory Committee beforehand, and one of the pieces around the 4 questions was that some of them, they don't use it because issues don't come up. And so the 4 questions are only used when an issue comes up. And so that's...
What are the 4 questions?
So that's, what are you doing? So if a student is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? And what are you going to do about it? And so it really helps to redirect the student's behavior without having a competition. And if everyone using it, it just helps to avoid any type of bias or feeling that one teacher likes anything.
Can you go back to the first slide, please? What do you attribute to the growth that you show here with respect to your special ed students?
So one of the pieces we looked at today, and we were talking in terms of accommodations, and so that could be a piece that attributed to our growth and our growth from our special ed teachers.
Anything other than accommodations? I mean, because that's on the surface is definitely, that's a big growth. And typically, that's not what we are looking at for the winter math. I mean, it's just the spring, and it's like, oh, okay. So I'm just curious as to what else do you think has impacted students, special ed students, that would contribute to such growth?
So I think also our special ed teachers took it personal in terms of our scores, and so they can really work hard as far as with our students.
Yeah, I think that's, I remember when it was, I think right after the fall administration of MAP, the PARC data was coming out, there was a conversation with one of the special education teachers who wanted access to all the MAP data, and so we worked to provide. So essentially, what we have to do is code all the kids, break them up different ways, but they wanted more data, so we provided that to them. Again, working with MyLab and making sure that we're providing data to our teachers who are implementing it has made a difference. And is that the magic pill? I don't know that it is, but knowing exactly where your children are, the skills that they need to go to the next level, and then the skills they need to solidify and maintain where they're at, I think that really helps teachers plan instruction. So there's been a number of different pieces that they've done. But yeah, I know the special education teachers did take it personally and responded. We'll keep it up over the next 3 months, 4 months.
With that, to what degree have the rest of the school also likewise taken it personally? As you say, as much as I think that I would imagine all teachers personally want the kids to succeed. Have there been other conversations around, kids or, really helping kids to really own the test and really drill down those specific targeted areas, or is this, and I think that the point of the question is, how can we replicate this and how can we expand this across the district, or across certainly across Parker, where you can see this buy-in.
One of the pieces as well, just to the heart of as far as with our interventions and making sure that we can get as many students in interventions as possible. And so, thanks to Dr. Smith and Ms. Crawford, we were able to add a few more teachers to be able to provide more interventions as far as to students, and even to expand that moving forward to be able to provide extra support to students during the school day and also as far as the weekend. But before break, all of our teachers really rolled up their sleeves, looked at the data, began to put together plans to be able to address the deficit areas. And so once we wouldn't really speak to this, but really as far as moving forward, in terms of really working to implement those plans and fill in those areas that we're not as strong.
And would you say also that the kids have some sort of buy-in with this data as well? To what degree are the kids, and again, this is my larger concern, especially with the PARCC test, is when you see suddenly students drop off the cliff in terms of their scores. And I have seen in the last, since I started teaching that, wow, the scores are great in 6th grade, and you have this sort of valley that pops up out of nowhere, and kids climb on the other side in 8th grade, and suddenly they're doing better in freshman year. And I guess I naturally attribute that to one of the cultural shifts of going through puberty, and you're with other kids and you're in a different structured environment in middle school or intermediate school or junior high school. And I guess I'd be curious as to the level at which the kids are also buying into those scores, where it's not just, okay, now the teachers are exhausting themselves even more, really stressing themselves out. How much of the kids also say, no, I'm going to do better. I'm going to take ownership of this stuff.
I was in the building during the math testing, and I can tell you that the special ed teachers that I was observing were in full rah-rah mode. They were absolutely, come on, I know you know this, let's do your best, try really, really hard, and high fives, and when the scores came back, I was in a classroom and they were high-fiving the kids, and you did great, look at how much growth you made. So those pieces I think were really, really important. They were really very encouraging and really stressing. The other side, as Fred mentioned, we will be really looking at the accommodations and making sure that all the kids are, we make sure we do all the accommodations as a rule. But we're going to absolutely make sure all the kids are getting the accommodations. We're going to review what they're getting in class, because if they're getting it in class, they can get it on the district assessment map, and then they can also get it on home. So we've been going through that as we're doing the PARCC assessment, or IA.
That's, I'm really glad that we definitely are picking up. I think too, the concern that we have to really take a really good look at is in the past, a lot of our kids have went to HF not so prepared for that. And when I look at their preliminary report card and the proficiency of math, I think last one, they 29%. And so there is no secret, and again, other districts, 153 comes in there. But I'm looking and I'm concerned about RN 161. And I have to say, my daughter last year was an 8th grader, and she had honors algebra. She came in going into honors geometry. So what I had to do, because she was not solid in math, she did not get the reinforcement that she needed in part of that, and she wasn't the only one. There was a lot of kids that this happened to. And this is my concern. I had to get someone who taught me in school, who just retired, specialized, that's what her specialty was math, to sit down with her during the summer to make sure that she could stay in touch with what was going on when she faced it at HF. And so there are a lot of stories like that some people don't have the means to do this. And so I want to make sure that our instructors, especially in all grade levels, are really setting the expectations, they're pushing the rigor, that yes, the standards are being taught, but I really want to make sure when we're painting this portrait of the legend, that it is really aligning what our high school is doing. Because they don't just get there and all of a sudden they become unprepared. We've got to prepare them here, and I know we got the resources to do that. So when I see the geometry strand have the smallest growth in all grade levels and showing growth in 6th and 8th grade math, we got a lot of work to still do. We still have a lot of work to do because we can have as many articulation meetings as we want with HF. We can continue to develop these SIP plans, but the data that we have, we've got to move on to help our kids to close this gap. Because the idea and the high achievers, we know that's not where the gap is. It's our middle learners. And I've had a high achiever and I've had a middle learner. And so I am really, if I don't sit on the board another day of my life, it is important that we prepare these kids to go on to HF or whatever school that they're going to. Because the math is showing up even there. And if we don't have the reinforcements and the supports in the classrooms, and I believe we're getting there, because this is positive. And I commend you all for everybody for the job that's being done. But I don't want us to get too comfortable because we still got a long way to go.
And I think one of the pieces that are heavy is the new curriculum. And so the new math curriculum it really lays a solid foundation as far as...
Which curriculum are you talking about? Are you talking about what is it, my perspective? Which one are you talking about?
Both, as far as ELA, but also CP, the new math curriculum.
Okay.
And even with the students starting with the program as far as in elementary school, is really is going to make a difference as they move up and help to build that conceptual understanding of the different concepts.
Any other questions?
Just one question about capturing kids' heart. I think, I don't know, a few months ago, you mentioned, I think Ms. Williams, you mentioned that there could be something that goes out to parents about the 4 questions or the launch or any of those things. I wonder if that could still happen. I think it would help to reinforce at home if parents knew some of the big picture pieces of capturing.
There's a one-pager. Even using some of the same language.
Because I would, right, I do with this one.
And I know that we talked about it before the ESSA ratings came out, and we got kind of meetings on the plan.
Yeah.
But I will bring that to BLT when we convene next time, because I think for us to send something out about what we're doing building-wide, I think we'd like BLT's input, but certainly something that we will look to put out soon.
Great. I think parents would support it in a significant way so that it would be on the mind of kids and they would have a better, just consistency.
And with that, I would even say, we have some really very positive anecdotes. I think that those help really connect it to the kids, and it's not just, a new program that's out there. Because I've actually been hearing a lot of tremendous things, and not just from my, rosy vision son, I've heard from, because I always ask kids, like, how's it going? How's your program? And they have really, I've been hearing from a variety of kids that they have been noticing that there's a real positive change. Even in parents who weren't being the frozen section of walls have letting them bring, honestly that, I see an improvement. It's really noticeable. We're not there apparently yet, but certainly we're getting there. And I think these are great stories to have and to share.
And then along those lines, it would be nice if even the community at large had an understanding of capturing kids' hearts, because then at the library, those questions could be asked, wherever
So
within the community.
committee.
We did provide training to
Oh,
our
that's right, we
library
did.
friends.
That's right.
And they've, a lot of changes over the summer.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll notice a different experience with the kids. And part of that, I think we can take credit for because there's a consistent way to interact with kids. It builds relationships. As Fred said, doesn't lead to an automatic confrontation.
Right.
We are going to rope them in when we train all the elementary buildings again in the fall. I think they have 1 or 2 new staff members. But to your point about the larger community, I think we can try to do a better job of pushing that information. So I do know that Amy is working on a story about capturing kids' art, so the timing is perfect for what you're talking about. So I would look for some more community information heading out in the next week or 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Would like to share some of the students in the principal's advisory committee just spoke up in terms of they build community within the classroom. And they were particularly talking about when they share good things, when students share good things in class, they felt that they get to learn more about their fellow students. And so helping to be able to make those connections.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'd be a good idea to also just share. Oh, you can.
Okay.
With the village capturing kids part, and, you know, maybe the village might want to take on some of that, or, you know, I know communities do kindness campaigns and things like that, but it might be a good partnership. And, you know, we love contests, we can think about how to turn that into a contest over the summer, but it's a good way to partner with the village, the library as well. It does.
You guys took.
It's still up there.
Good evening. Good evening. So Serena, we are on target for meeting our SIP goals. Our building-wide goal, 60%, which in the excellent range. Our building-wide for ELA was 66%. Our goal was 65. Our math goal was 70%, and we are at the winter benchmark at 75%. So our strengths, we are implementing with fidelity our best practices. We are closely monitoring our data. We're looking at our common assessments. We're looking at all of our informals, doing zone analysis, and our PBAs. So we're looking closely at what happens in our PLCs. And then we're looking at our collaborative communities and continuously working on our collaborative culture, using our support systems, our support staff to enhance student achievement. In ELA, our focus is still in writing. We're incorporating writing across the curriculum. For math, we're trying to refine our practices in bridges. Our PD seems to be having measurable impact on teacher performance. We're refining number corner workplaces and math talks. Our innovation lab is a success. Project-based learning is 21st century learning. Using all the disciplines, the multiple disciplines, it does support what we do with our students. Teachers are now learning alongside our SNE teacher as well, so that there's some PD going on simultaneously while the students are in the lab. Social emotional, we are continuing with the common language using Second Step. We have our house initiative that is very successful. We're promoting our common language using school-wide PBS activities, and our restorative practices have had a measurable impact on our discipline referrals, but again, also teaching kids new tools and ways, positive ways to resolve conflict when it occurs. Our opportunities are in ELA, our K-3, we are looking closely at phonics and worksite skills, and in math, our measurements and data, that's a reoccurring area of improvement. An area that we're trying to improve on. So we looked at shifting some of those units, and we are also talking about that in their professional development. For our action plans, we started a new initiative, it's called the Student-Centered School-Based Problem Solving. What it is really is helping us screen our students who may be at the tertiary tier 2, bubble kids in that area, tier 3. We're using a more intensified screener to identify what interventions are most appropriate to meet those deficit areas. We are finding that we did have some gaps, and so now we're going back and looking at what we can do in the tier 2 level for low doses and how we can supplement our ReadyGen curriculum to look at that, especially in ELA. Goal setting will continue to occur in the core with student input. It's really important that we have that common, that opportunity to share time with kids, to talk about their goals, and that they're a part of setting those goals. Writing is being incorporated in all content areas. We're going to continue to monitor our assessment data. I talked about that. Small group learning in ELA. Our focus really is about the amount of time we're spending in small groups and what is really the focus. And so we're really honing in on specific skills and strategies that students should be learning and how they're using them in small and full group. Based on our tertiary percentages, we looked at our triangles just coming out of day-to-day, and we are a little high in our tier 2. So we are looking at progress monitoring a little bit closer and looking at other interventions that mostly would be most appropriate for our students. And that's happening through our student-centered, our school-based problem-solving process. Consistent communication to support the school-to-home partnership. So we support our parents to help them understand a little bit more closely what we're doing every day and how they can support the curriculum. Activities to support our culture and climate are occurring, and our future focus will be on digital fluency and how we can use a variety of tools to create meaning and what advices will be appropriate for students to problem solve and gather more knowledge. Interesting.
You mentioned house initiatives.
Yeah, so if you've ever seen Harry Potter, there's a house initiative, so every student in the school belongs to a house. And each house has a name, and each house represents something, like the house of integrity, or the house of kindness. And so they display certain specific skills, and they can earn points for their house. And then at the end of the month, we have, on our bulletin board, we have, we're updating the numbers, so the house with the most points at the end, it's a huge prize, DBS type of incentive.
Okay.
So we recognize that every student, so you can have, K through 5, you have, all those grade levels, all those different grade levels, and those kids can be on different houses. It's not just made up of one grade level.
And are they integrated into classrooms?
They're integrated into classrooms, and so tomorrow is one of our days that we'll have a house meeting. So they'll all go and they'll talk about their goal and what they need to work on and how different ways they can earn points, and so they earn all over the school and the community.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really neat. Yeah, so all the house learning after stars, Polaris, Rogers, yeah. Cool, right?
That's really cool.
Do they get banners?
You know what, they have t-shirts and they have signs, they all have signs, so when you're in the house, if we walk up and you say, hey, I'm in house so-and-so, you can do your sign, your handshake, and whatever they come up with, that's all driven, all student-centered.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
It would be great in the school. When did you start doing it?
Beginning of the year.
Yeah, so it would be great maybe the end of the school year, could you bring some of your, I want to see that.
That was handshake. Yeah, it's kind of neat when it's first set up, because they'll do the handshake, the kids are really involved, the parents are even involved. So like, if there's garbage left on the table, I'll say, okay, can somebody help out? And they now grab the garbage, if somebody forgets something else at your house, you bring, when you learn, just earn 5 points for your house. So they know that their actions are always important and always have an impact on building your community as a unit. Everybody should. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deacon.
I know, I like the videos, I'll try not to cry. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So I'll start out with the
Flossmoor Hills. Some of our greatest celebrations have been increasing the number of students who are our monthly VIP banded students. So those students are consistently following expectations, and then they get banded. And we added this year rubrics, so it's really clear to the students what they need to do to become banded based on behavior. And then we're also adding reflections, so they reflect each week. And they write and talk about what they did well, how they contributed to the school and classroom community, and what they're going to work on. And the incentives are small, but they love them, even the fifth graders. It can be reading to primary students for 10 minutes at the end of the day, at the end of the week, limbo during announcements, or lunch with the principal. But it's really motivating, it's contagious, and the students, when they get banded for the first time, are like, so excited, oh goodness, Marty finally got banded, and so it's really good to see. So we did increase to over 100 students last night in the school who were banded. So it's nice to reward the students who are always doing the right thing and recognize them. And then just continuing to celebrate how we're doing with data analysis and PLCs and early interventions. So for analyzing data, I think everyone always says like analyzing data, but how are they really doing that? So what we've been doing recently is taking the park data from last year and looking at it by standards and looking closely at each standard and how they did with their instruction last year. So like fifth grade found that with the problem with volume, we didn't do as well as we thought we would. But volume isn't like how it was when we learned it, length times width times height. Easy, right? The standards now are so multifaceted, it's like recognize volume as additive of two non-overlapping rectangular prisms. So there's so much to it. So they're actually looking at where did we maybe not break this down enough. So not only do they look at how their students from last year did and reflect on their instruction, they also look at how their incoming students did on volume in fourth grade, and so do they need to fill the gaps. So once they do all that, they lay it out next to our curriculum and look at where they're going to teach it, how it's going to fit in. Once they do all that, they add their flair and make it engaging. So it's tons of work, and I can't say enough about how they dive into it and the hours they put into it. So that's the analyzing data. Things we need to work on, writing. We're always working on writing, especially primary. It's a lot, like with the new curriculum, they talk a lot about how can we scaffold our students up to it, because what it asks them to do, they'll say they're struggling. So we talk a lot about what are we going to do to get them there. How are we going to take the steps? When the writing curriculum asks the kindergartners to write a paragraph, you know, it's stressful, and so you have to look at how you're going to get them there. So always writing, and then the chronic absenteeism. We're looking at that for sure. So what we're doing with that are the school-wide certificates home, and then the personal calls, reaching out to families to see if there's something we can do. Is there something going on? Is the student, you know, ill? Can we help? Are they nervous to come to school? If they're the little ones, what's going on? And then also just sharing with parents how important it is. I don't think parents always realize, you know, how important it is for the students to be here. They think they'll miss a day, but just like sharing that with parents and having the conversation, and then individual incentives for our chronically truant students, just little prizes if they can get to school on time and get there every day. Just something small like Eagle Bucks to reward them, and just recognize, hey, I see you're here. I know maybe you were tired and you got yourself up, but I'm glad you're here. So definitely working on that. We continue to have the care room for reteaching. That's a great opportunity for students to reflect on their behavior before just going straight to a punitive consequence. Actually listen to what happened to make them, you know, snap back at another student. What's going on with them and why did they feel like they had to do that. And then just continuing with our curriculum, we have after-school tutoring programs. We have both the in-person and the Elevate. So we're very careful as we select students for that. We look at our achievement gap and target students who might not have as much help and see if we can help them in that way, and then offer a wide variety of after-school activities to build community.
I want to talk, great plan. I'm reflecting back on when my oldest girl was at Parker, probably about 7, maybe 8, maybe a little bit more. There used to be awards given for attendance. And I noticed when my younger daughter came through, all of that kind of ceased. And I mean, we shouldn't have to reward, but I think we have to in light of how this chronic absenteeism is being viewed on the annual report card. But we have to get back to rewarding students for coming on time. Even though in some cases, you know, they can't be punished for it. We've got to get back to that. Because that was huge. I remember one year, Miracle was saying to me, wow, they didn't even give awards anymore. And she had perfect attendance.
Yeah.
And I told her, your reward is not as good as with me, you know, but we gotta definitely get back to that. And I said, really, as a district, you know, and I forget what they used to do for the kids.
Yeah, certificates, spread them over announcements.
And even at an assembly.
Yeah, and assembly.
Some type of recognition, you know.
We can talk about how you recognize it.
Yeah, so for attendance, we do the certificates and starting to read them over announcements. But I agree, I mean, I don't want to punish students, you know, if they're not there, but we have to do something to build them up with good attendance. So I think we're trying to make the connections with the students and the families and get more to like the root of maybe why they're not getting to school to kind of help them instead of just making it, you know, punishable. But we definitely do that, like little incentives, certificates, letters mailed home to let parents know we appreciate them getting their students there with attendance, things like that.
And we used to look for 10%, that was kind of your number. Now, as we came out with some guidance, essentially, if you miss between 1% and 5% of the school year at any given time, you're chronically true. So over the course of the year, that's, 8.5 days.
There's things we can do to supplement resources, like we had families we reached out to, and they were waiting on a vaccination earlier in the year. They were having trouble getting into a doctor, so Nurse Kanawa, who's excellent, helped connect them with a place where they could get in sooner and get it for free. So I think sometimes it's stuff like that, and we don't realize unless you reach out and say, can we help somehow?
I know some of these restaurants, but I know, like, I knew at one point, and I'm not sure if it's still happening, where America was, with the reading program, tying that in with the reading program. And I believe Wendy's or somebody used to do something else too. I mean, there are all kinds of people. Kids love to eat out. They love Where's America. McDonald's, something, that they can connect to say, hey,
A lot of places will do it. Movie theaters will do like free popcorn or things like that.
I noticed that you said that you're just starting to, find out some causality. Well, what are some of the patterns here? Is there anything that's sort of coming, just even historically in the last couple of years, why there might be absenteeism that at least like a starting point that you can work with?
I mean, if they're homeless, it can be difficult.
Sure.
So if the bus isn't right there, there's a lot of different things. Like I said, vaccinations and different things. We had some start to miss a lot around that time because they can't come to school at that date and things like that. So even small things like the weather when I called, when the weather was really bad, or the days when we didn't call snow day, sometimes they just said they struggled. Their car wouldn't start. There's a lot of different reasons. But it's never once been a parent saying, I don't care if my kid comes to school. They care. There's just a lot going on.
So so far there's been an actual impediment where something has gotten in the way of it happening.
Almost always.
Is there anything that we can do, even as a group? It's just a thought, we brought it out here. But you know how you have the classroom that has the highest attendance or kids that came for this quarter, that we can, I don't know, do a t-shirt or do a pizza for that classroom, something. I know that, and I've heard it before, back in here when it was something they were doing, I don't remember what it is. But I remember she said to me, I can't miss school. She was sick. And she was like, I can't miss school because I'm on perfect attendance. And I'm like, they go to school and they got other kids sick. sick, more, whatever, but you'd be surprised what kids are motivated by. And I'm saying you're not gonna go on straight nerves, and I kid you not, within 20 minutes, that girl was dressed and standing at the door and saying, I can't miss because our class is on target, so, yeah, I think it's something that we need to do on our district, and that helps us bring our kind of absenteeism as a whole down, you know. Also part of taking us from commendable to exemplary to going to a blue ribbon district. That's part of it, is that absenteeism. Of course, the gap is the biggest thing, totally the gap, but.
At what point how many absences does a student need to have before you actually start doing a little bit more?
Before I call,
Yeah.
I call after 3 consecutive. So, because that's also when we look to maybe have a doctor's note, there's something really wrong with them, so that's when I reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All right, so this year, we're happy to say we had our school improvement plans for the end of the year. We're 60% in reading and 70% in math, and we reached those goals at 61 and 71. So now we're just trying to keep that climb going up to make it. When we look at our data over a few years, over the past 3 years, we've increased 21% in math from year to total year. So it's a huge percentage. And definitely can say that goes for the amazing teachers that are really implementing the Bridges curriculum with such fidelity for there. For math, our growth, we had 5 out of 6 in reading, and all grades in math grow higher than the projected norms for the testing period. So it was great to see our little diamond where we were at over those bars. So it was good. And then in our proficiency, 5 out of 6 in reading and all in math were above the national average rate. So those were some of our really proud moments and our strengths. Some of the things we want to work on are informational talks for reading, it's a little bit lower, and our measurement data in math. And the measurement data across the board throughout the building seems to be one of our areas that we needed to work on. So we worked with the BLT to kind of come up with reasons why that might be. Some is just the placement of it in the curriculum, when will we hit it. Others are, in first grade, they're still only measuring with Unifix cubes and, other things, not so much rulers, because the test based with rulers. So we're looking at ways to combat that, to make measurement data not an area across the board that we need to work with. Social emotionally, we worked with the Tier Fidelity Inventory, which is a PBIS tool to really evaluate your PBIS program in your building to see where you're at. There was 3 of us that went to the PBIS conference this year to really just dive deep into our program and to see where we're at. So 3 that were working, we came out that we really need to work at our data analysis and the teaching expectations. So looking at making data-informed decisions on where we need to reteach those expectations. And then just like Smarty was saying, decrease our tardies and chronic absenteeism. One of the things, just going off what we were talking about a minute ago, for our tardies that we're working on, to do those incentives is random incentives at 8:30 in the morning. So it might be a quick, Cupid shuffle real quick at 8:30, and then get right to work, just to where then the kids are not there, they just say, hey, Mrs. Holland, we did the Cupid shuffle real quick. Or I will bring the prize box to one room quickly and say, hey, anyone's here by 8:30, we're all gonna get out of the prize box. So try and make those sporadic too. So more of the talks coming up of what is she gonna do, what crazy thing is she gonna do now this morning if we're all here. So there's some things. We're working on Pi the principal and Pi the teachers. Well, we're right now averaging about 30 tardies per morning, which is really, really high. So since we got back from winter break, we're working on 15 or less. And 15 times, we go 15 or less, we'll have that celebration of hi, I got to see my face, and then go from there. So those are some of the things we're working on there. So using our school improvement plan, we're in our reading, we're targeting the different strands and the standards that we need to work on. I worked with my MTSS coach and my instructional coach and reading specialist. We kind of reconfigured our schedule to make sure we can help into the classroom too, as much as their schedule,
to really target those areas where students are really at a deficit at those standards. And then we're monitoring that through our Ready Gen assessment to see. In math, this year what we did was we looked at our achievement gap, that's for low income that we are targeting to close that gap. Last year, from winter to spring, we were at 67% that exceed their math growth. As of right now, from fall to winter, we are at 75%. So we still got to see what happens in the spring, but we know the number's going to go up. So we're hoping that that will then hopefully translate to part 2 for there. So that the teachers, what they do is they look through the pre-test for those kids in the achievement gap area and see what they want to focus on for that unit. They work in small groups, and then they do the post-test to see the difference. And then again, social emotionally, we're working with the Tier Fidelity to drive our program. We've created school-wide incentives. We have calendars where the students can kind of track their own behavior. They have great days, they have bad, days they want to improve on, what their skill they're going to be working on for the month may be. We've created a PBI store. It's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese in the middle of our hallway. The kids absolutely love it. And they come and they cash in their tickets. We have parent volunteers come. They cash in their tickets. They get their prizes right then. That's been a real big hit. And then we have our Hornets High every month. And then the last thing that we're going to do with social emotionally is we did just receive the second step principal binder. So I'll be doing a lot more communication with parents and teachers to make sure we're all on the same track with second step, making sure that schedule of who's teaching what lesson when, so we can have that kind of linkage throughout the building. And that's it.
Any questions or comments? Congratulations on the growth.
Oh, thanks, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So have we looked into like a pattern of why kids are late?
We're starting to really dive deep into that, and we don't have, there's not been a big, huge hazard that I've seen. Sure, the weather, yes, things like that, but it's really here or there. I was talking with one parent, it was like she likes to have a longer breakfast. So those are the type of things that I'm just having those conversations. We're starting to call our BLT team. What we're in the process of doing is kind of splitting up, so it's coming, all those phone calls are coming from multiple people, not just me, not just the classroom teachers, to try and get those in a smaller number. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay. All right, so Western Avenue Windsor District. We were able to surpass our goal for reading our spring goal already, which is wonderful. We found that our kids are really responding well to the Ready Gen curriculum. We are still exploring kind of different ways to work with the writing, particularly in our primary grades, but we are noticing tremendous improvement for all of our kids. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, which is great. For math, we are close to meeting our goal. We still have some work to do. What we noticed when I broke down the data is that in our 4th and 5th grade, in our higher cohorts, so like 76 percentile and higher, we noticed that we have between 14 and 15 students who are about 1 to 2 points away from meeting their targeted growth projection for the spring. So because we have that many kids who are that close, we didn't see as much growth as I wanted to see. I was planning on hitting my spring targets both in the winter. But we will definitely be hitting our spring targets by spring. We did still have a really nice number of students who scored above a 241 in math. 241 is kind of where we're looking at just in terms of when we're ready to introduce concepts for algebra. And we have a really nice number of students, both in 4th and 5th grade, who have shown us that readiness. And so we've been doing things to work with them, really working on our collaboration between our ACE Gifted program and our core curriculum for Bridges. Compared to winter of last year, we have increased the number of students meeting or exceeding their growth targets. So for reading, we have 55 more students this year who met their growth target as opposed to last year. And in math, we have 49 more students this year meeting their growth target, which was a big celebration for us. The opportunity, I spoke to this previously, but we do have 48 students, because we go third grade, fourth and fifth in, who need support for their targeted growth projections for reading. And then we have 32 students, also in grades 3 through 5, who need more assistance for their target in math. We do expect that these students are going to hit their growth target by the spring. We just found it interesting this year that that data was centered particularly around those percentiles. In terms of our lower end, what we noticed K through 5 in general, we have about 42 students who are below the 35th percentile. In reading and math, we did not meet growth targets. So there are targeted interventions and support that we put in place to work with these children, especially the rollout of an after-school tutoring program to offer more instructional time. In terms of school improvement plan, next steps, things that we've changed. With our higher clusters, because we noticed that our higher clusters for 4th and 5th grade are where our students need the most support for reaching their growth target. So for 4th grade, we reached out to Jen Seigel, our consultant for Bridges. She's offered a lot of really nice solutions that have worked for us. So the first one is we brought down 5th grade workplaces into our 4th grade high cluster. And then additionally, we're weaving some of the 5th grade standards and activities into the high cohort for the 4th grade. We've been using our zone analysis for the 5th grade end of year comprehensive exam with our 4th graders to identify deficiency standards, and then we're aiming to target those. We made a shift in our enrichment. We were going to move to the strand of measurement and data, but what we noticed in the scope and sequence is that most of our teachers are hitting a very big unit right now for measurement and data. So we decided with our enrichment piece to circle back to operations and algebraic thinking, just because we saw that there are so many kind of things that stem from the operations and algebraic thinking strand that really give you more bang for your buck, just in terms of algebra readiness. So we're moving back to that for our enrichment cluster. Teachers who are in the high reading clusters are placing an emphasis on vocabulary development. We also just have reassessed students in our clusters to make sure that we have the right differentiated vocabulary, because we're also using, part of our SIP plan was to use Savvier as a supplement to enhance and provide more vocabulary work with our kids. So just for example, I know in 3rd grade with our high cluster, we're using the 4th grade Savvier, and recently there are quite a few students who have shifted to the 5th grade book based on their based on where they're at within the current program. And so all of those things are kind of working in tandem with one another to help our kids move forward. We just had our data day, which was really nice. We have kids all re-tiered, and I'm really excited about this upcoming data cycle. We had a really robust conversation just about types of interventions that we're providing and how we can fit these into the school day so that we're reaching more kids. We noticed in a couple of grade levels that we had kids who needed tier 3 reading interventions, and so because it was taking a full hour, they were missing out on tier 2 interventions that we needed for math. So we figured out how to work that into the schedule so that those kids are receiving their reading intervention, their math intervention, and then core for both. That took a while, but we figured it out. So we're really trying to just make sure that we provide the most targeted instruction that we can, and that if there are gaps, that we're filling those in appropriately. In terms of our in terms of our school-wide SEL, because I don't even have anything up there, which is so funny because last year was a little hectic with that, and this year is so much more calm. And so it's interesting that it's not even up there because it has taken off, and it's such a great thing in our building this year. And we've implemented just like a lot of things in terms of the positive incentives we're doing for kids. So we're doing positive office behavior referrals every 2 weeks, where teachers who are write a referral for a kid, but it's talking about all the great things that they're doing in class. I know Grant just got one last week for being a good friend to another student, so the teacher writes it, and then I write a comment back, and then the kids come down and they get a prize, and they get a picture, it's a big deal. And then we've also been doing lunch and recess behavior tickets. Every week on Thursday, we do a raffle. Kids get tickets when they show kindness to others in the lunchroom, and they show that they're being a good friend in the lunchroom. And so that's been really nice. Having the school theme of kindness really helps because they hear it from me every day. I have something that I can go back to, and it's the same thing, it's the same message. It does not change. And having everybody just on the same page in terms of promoting the positive and really making sure we make role models out of the students who are doing the right thing is really helping quite a bit. And we also have implemented a school-wide attendance plan to combat chronic truancy and absenteeism. I had a little bit of a different reaction from our parents when we started rolling these things out. There have been a lot of challenges with that, but with the challenges, we have great dialogue and kind of tweaks to the plans to make sure that families get comfortable with the initiatives moving forward.
Okay, did you just go home? So you can feel better. Any questions?
Can I go?
I think she's pretty clear. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I hope this gives a little bit of insight into the true professionalism of our building principals and the building leadership teams that they work with in grade level teams. I think the school improvement plans, we made a commitment to those who really guide the work. That's why we spend so much time creating them before the school year begins, measured them right in the fall and then bringing them back now. The amount of work that goes into them at the building level is outstanding. This really kind of shows you the laser-like focus that the teachers and the administrators have. So thank you all for your hard work on the school improvement plans. And we'll bring these back in June at the end of the year.
I think it would be awesome for the board when you come back in June to give updates. And I feel like maybe you but not consistently. Like, what's in June, I will ask, like, what is the one thing that happened this school year that you were the most excited about? Because I'm excited about the house necessary, so I'm just going to come on over. But there are a lot of amazing things going on in all of the buildings, and you know, it would be great to hear from you all at the end of the school year that one thing that you all did that actually, you know, excited you the most. So, okay. Curriculum for STEAM labs. Pam, are you still there? You said it's plenty of questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sharon. About this.
Yes.
Okay. The third row down, I just can't understand why it looks the way that it does. If you look at the math percentile score by term.
What's the chart called?
Yeah, which chart?
Math percentile score by term. So I can see, you know, fall to winter, there's a consistent increase for the grade levels, but this is the one chart that has, like, third grade significantly higher than fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
Right.
It's an odd little, you know, it's strange, right? You'd expect it to look like all the others. That's what I would think when I got to this one. It's like, whoa, what is happening here? I don't know if it is.
Let us dig into that.
What's that?
I said, let us dig into that.
Okay, that would be great.
And we'll come back.
Okay.
Did you catch up, everyone?
I can't, my computer just died.
I got it. It's score by term.
Okay.
Math, yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, right.
Sure. So, just coming back on the STEAM curriculum, this is the same set of materials from, or that we're currently using at Serena, and I've got good experience with it so far. It is just the materials at this time, no construction, really nothing beside. We may need some furniture to hold all the materials. We do need to buy the computers. Tony did a really good job last year buying those separately instead of going through the company. So this would be buying the materials for the STEAM labs and remaining the buildings, and no furniture. We'll bring all that information back at a later time.
In considering how what we are doing at Serena will be replicated, I'm assuming, Sherry, you've been able to add input?
Yeah, when plenty of people have visited Serena to see how it's happening. We're actually, I think we screened our candidates and we started interviews for the STEAM teachers next week. Some really great candidates.
Are we looking at what are internal candidates, or are they coming from?
It's a mix.
It's a mix, okay.
It's a mix. I think there's a lot of experience. What we've seen is that it's the attitude and focus on the types of learning that have to happen in the STEAM lab, as opposed to, I had this huge science background.
Right.
Right. It's the focus on problem-based, learning experiences and putting children in positions to struggle effectively and still have a good time doing it. So, yeah, like I said, we have a lot of internal candidates, which is always bittersweet because you're out there competing to pick Paul, but some really high-quality instructors. And so I feel confident that we will get 3 great people.
MOU, Washington, D.C. chaperone session.
So this is just a memorandum of understanding with the association regarding the teachers who are going to chaperone the Washington DC trip, since that is during their spring break and they should negotiate a rate. It is their per diem rate plus $100, and that's stemming from the same thing that we pay our outdoor education teachers, which is an additional $100 per day. So if they're on their contract day, it's just an additional $100. If they are on a day when they are not supposed to be working, it's their per diem plus that $100.
Any questions? Thanks, Trina. Bounce Back Program.
So the Bounce Back Program is another social emotional learning program. It's based on research done with children under trauma. And so I've had the privilege of working with the Bounce Back Program in a previous district. They were one of the implementers for the research. So the Bounce Back Program reached out to Governor State, and they're working on a grant with Governor State. They will provide us with training and an intern to help co-implement some of the sessions, as well as collecting data. And I think it's a great program. I reached out to the principals and the social workers, and they're all very interested in it. I think it will be really our tier 3 students. So we'll do a identification process, and then we'll hone it down to the students that will be in the groups. Parents have to basically participate. That's part of the signature that they're signing for the child to be in the group. And then the parents have some sessions as well. So I think it's a wraparound kind of supportive level. I'm very excited about it.
Any questions for Robin? Thank you. Osborne Hills Sculpture Intergovernmental Agreement.
Yes, we were approached by the Village of Flossmoor about adding a piece of artwork to Flossmoor Hills School. Kathy, if you would mind clicking on the picture. We would have the piece of artwork on loan. The village would come in and do all the preparation for the grounds at Flossmoor Hills. I think this is the same sculpture that's at Governor State, if I'm wrong. I believe it's an artist out of Florida. If approved, they would begin construction sometimes toward the end of March. Again, it would just be laying a concrete pad, placing this on top. They will do all the maintenance. At the end of the time, they'll take everything out and move everything away, return it to the US.
how many students can it withstand hanging?
Always asking the good question. It looks pretty sturdy.
A spring base.
Why Buffalo Road?
I don't know that there was any thought about it besides, we don't have any artwork over there. There's, obviously Parker has some in at Levitt Park, which is fairly close, and Western has some within a block off of Western and Flossmoor Road, so I think it's just spreading it out around Flossmoor.
So the district made the choice of Flossmoor.
No, the village asked if they
Village
could place it
asked that.
at Flossmoor.
I thought when we saw something on this, and I could be wrong, my memory could be certainly wrong, that whoever created this piece, that there was some time or something
Oh, I can look.
into back, because this came up back some time ago. And I could be wrong again, because I'm trying to take in a whole lot of information and remember things, but I could have sworn that the artist or something, there was some time to Flossmoor Hills. I could have sworn, but I could be wrong.
I thought this was the artist's impression of what the yellow line should look like in the roundabout in downtown Boston.
That's how it's starting to get late.
That could be what that is, but it was something trying to why they wanted it at Flossmoor Hills. And I thought it was the artist or some sort of, what the art is, or.
Bro, tell us.
We would have an intergovernmental agreement. There's no cost to the district. We're really looking forward to this at Flossmoor.
But again, any little, because I thought about what John said when I was looking at this, any little thing, I looked at the contract, any slight little thing, they're going to maintain.
Yes.
Even if 50 kids came on in and drawing, we pray nothing that happens.
We are completely indemnified.
January financial.
They're in your packet, we're still on track.
I love it, Fran. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chromebook deployment plan. You gotta beat Fran's, like, what was that, a second?
Oh, it's gonna be me for the rest, so here we go. Ready? Let's go, keep up. So we have looked at, we did the deployment schedule that we gave you last year. We're following it, continuing this year, which would call for another 4 grade levels worth of Chromebooks. It's about 1,100 Chromebooks. We have gotten our quotes on that, and it's slightly lower than what we got costs for last year. Additionally, we're returning grades 6, 7, and 8 Chromebooks to the leasing company. They are willing to give them to us. We're still negotiating the price, but it sounds like somewhere around $40 a piece. So we are looking to purchase some of those that we can use in all of the buildings as loaners for when the new ones either break or are forgotten at home or those kinds of things. So we figure those are, pick out the best ones as a group and we'll purchase those and return the rest to the leasing company. And again, that's pretty much it.
Fund balance plan.
This is a return to that conversation we continue to have. I have added in there a little bit of information that is, at this time we're in bill season. There's a ton of bills out there, and some of them absolutely address property tax freezes and different, different ways that different legislators go about trying to figure out how you determine property taxes. So there is one House bill out there that I would call your attention to. It's House Bill 924. It would create the school district extension freeze law, and some of that is based on what percentage fund balance within just the education fund you have. And actually the law is saying by the end of a levy year, which I'm not sure how that they would define that, since we report at the end of the fiscal year, which does not coincide with the levy year. So I'm sure that there's still a lot of work to be done if this even gets any traction. But just to kind of call your attention to that, under this bill, it basically says that if you have reserves of 50% or more, you may not exceed your extension for the prior year And if you had more than 60%, you actually have to give money back. So just kind of using this kind of language, we looked at what ours is. We actually, the education fund estimate at the year end here, we would have about 55% reserve levels within the education fund, which would put us at that frozen level. So not above the 60, but not below the 50. And again, just the education fund. So just kind of a perspective of where this conversation starts to go.
I would support a move to a percentage rather than a hard dollar number, and the percentage formula per Frank's recommendation at the appropriate time. I think it makes sense.
Any other thoughts?
Then I'll work on that. I'll work on a hard recommendation.
Thank you. Summer tech and custodial help.
This again is a repeat item every year on our numbers of the amount of work hours is essentially the same from year to year. The number of actual students may vary because we have a slightly smaller window of opportunity to clean this summer, so there's 2 additional kids, but the same number of total work hours from the prior year, actually a couple of hours shorter. We are recommending that we increase the rate to $9 an hour. As you know, with the new minimum wage law, it'll be going up effective January 1st. But I've just been noticing as I've been driving around that even fast food, jobs are starting to post anywhere from minimum wage up to, I've seen as high as $11 an hour just for, kids to work in fast food. So we're trying to get these students to come here and stay for a couple of summers, and so we can, get them, working with us. So as of next summer, we're going to be required to pay them $10 an hour. So we are recommending a jump to $9 an hour this year. And then after that, every year it'll be an additional $1.
Is there anything beyond money that we could really offer them as an incentive, that they can later use on their applications for more higher paying jobs?
As it is, especially with the kids who are working with the tech department, they can always put that on their resume, so that's a little easier. The kids who are working for Scotty, it's a work experience and that kind of thing, but, it's cleaning, But it's work experience, it's always good. My son do, it's a good thing.
Do we still have some of the same kids coming back for the tech, for the summer tech? And are they local Floss workers or?
Most.
Okay, any other questions? Summer 2019 non-bid projects and Department of Buildings and Grants.
I'll take this up and you can jump on in. We're bringing to you what we believe would be the maintenance work to be done this summer. This is, for the most part, with the exception of one item, and I'll delineate that out. There are amounts that go below the bid requirement. We do our seal coating in every other year increments. So this year, it would be Flossmoor Hills, Heather Hill, and Serena Hills to seal coat and restripe their parking lots and outfall areas. That estimate right now, we've gone out and gotten some initial quotes. Right now, that's coming in at about $24,015. So that's an initial quote. We will get others as we go forward, but we're just telling you what work we would like to do over the summer. We always do lunch table and bench repairs in the cafeterias at all facilities. They get a lot of heavy use going up and down, and it just becomes dangerous if we don't take care of that equipment. And that does run us somewhere around $10,000. We have our last building to put the vertical blind replacement in. We've made it around the whole district, but now we're at Western Avenue, which is a pretty large building, a lot of windows, a lot of lights. So we're looking at an initial quote of around $20,000 to get Western Avenue complete. The lockers in the 6th grade wing of Parker Junior High, the exteriors have seen some they've seen better days, it's time to paint them. They use, what's that called?
Metrostatic.
Metrostatic paint. And they'll take them up and clean them up, and that's about just shy of $8,000 to have that hallway done. The clock system over at Parker Junior High is not in the best shape, and they're not all reading the same time. So that's another something that we want to take care of over this summer. That's going to run us about $10,000 to get all of the clocks going identical. Also refinishing Parker Junior High gym floor. That's going to be about $2,800. And then the last item is one that we will bid on this room back here. It's across from the curriculum department if you're back there. Its floor still has asbestos underneath it. The room itself is emptied at this time, and the flooring itself, the carpeting and so on, is really in tough shape. So at this point in time, we would like to tent off that room and abate the floor, replace the floor, and then we can have that room set up for preschool screening year-round, and just set it up. And there's also a room there where you can actually, there's a little conference room where you can see in there the one-way mirror, so you can watch kids too. It's a nice little space, but we definitely do need to replace the flooring. Our estimate for the abatement itself is going to be about $47,000, and for the replacement and mitigation of the floor, about another $20,000. So in total, we're looking at projects to be somewhere in the $142,000 range.
So will that now be the end of asbestos removal?
No. Sorry. No, we're rebuilding this building.
That'll exhaust our whole.
Yeah, so we've now wrapped around, we've got this hallway, the whole back of the building, and that'll end the back here. However, from the fishbowl, that hallway down, all of the tech area, and this whole front hallway area here is still all asbestos. So not quite there yet.
Yeah, that sounds like a long way.
Yeah, well, that's why we keep like chunking it.
Any questions?
Fran, I just have one question. I want to kind of go back a little bit. Was there one time that we had some paving or something done, and I just remember this right, that was accidentally done, that we didn't require to be done?
Correct. Pavement system, last year, we asked them for quotes so we could start preparing for this summer or the following summer, and instead they ripped out the entire drive and put it back, and it's all brand new. Ford chose not to pay them for it because we didn't ask them to do it. So we're going to different seal coaters this year.
Any more questions? No?
Well, I have some questions, but I'm keeping this to myself. No, I mean, so we didn't even bother. I mean, I guess because the relationship probably is not great.
Yeah, the
because
relationship.
of that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Nice that they, since they did do that. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Go on.
I'm just curious, what kind of clock system are Parker? Digital and analog, it's $10,000, I'm just.
Well,
there would be a new Wi-Fi system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that we would install and replace all the non-functioning ones.
Got it.
Right now, a lot of the problem is, as I understand, they're kind of daisy chained together.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start losing any of those connections, you lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't.
Oh, I know. Whatever, I know. Absolutely.
I don't think Fran wants to hear me talk about.
No, we're going to mark this as superintendent's pet peeve.
Oh, I just was curious.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a climate issue. When you have kids who are trying to get to class on time, where we want them to be, and they look down the hallway and it's 6:58 on one clock, 11:09 on another one. We expect great results.
March board topics.
Just an updated list of the board topics that we'll discuss
at our March 9th meeting. Remember, we only have one board meeting in March, so it will be a mix of action and discussion items.
Any questions? We are now at the end of our discussion items. We have several action items. First item, 2019-2020 calendar. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the 2019-2020 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Need a second? Second. Any discussion, questions, comments?
I do have a question. So, in looking at this calendar, have we ran into any issues that the teachers, on the side of the teachers, that this can be an issue?
Okay, well, I think it's an issue, it can be an issue regardless. I think we got a really comprehensive email from the FDA this morning, so I'd like to go through and address a couple of issues brought up. And bear with me, I shared some of this information with the board a little bit earlier. But certainly, Western Avenue and Flossmoor Hills do not have air conditioning. Part of the impetus behind this is to finish those projects. Looking at...
Part of this, of moving this?
No, well, this starts that process, because if you'll remember, we had air conditioning at Heather. They didn't get into their office until August 15th, right? Heather Hill is half the size of Western, right? So if we don't create more space over a summer, I am fairly confident that we will not be able to air condition Western in one summer. So now you're breaking up all network for two, which is perfectly fine. You should have to choose who's going to get air conditioning at Western and who won't. And then you kind of roll that forward. Looking at, like I said, they don't have air conditioning now. It's a real issue. They cycle through the gym, some of those other areas. Just a quick look back. The average, it had we started a week earlier in 2017, the average temperature was 73 degrees. This year, the average temperature was 74. So it's a little bit warmer, certainly, but I would also say in both September 2017 and September 2018, we also had a week that it averaged almost 78 degrees. So there is some flexibility with those temperatures, but regardless, heat will be an issue. It's one of the things we have to contend with now. And I think that's why we recommended the board that we look to do this construction in summer 2020 to provide air conditioning at Flossmoor Hills and at Western.
Okay. Before you came, for 7 years, I sat here and just counted, 7 years ago, I started advocating for air over there at Flossmoor Hills because I sat over in one of those classrooms and almost passed out. We were always told that summer spell is just a brief thing, and I always said that, and prayerfully, I haven't heard anything, prayerfully it won't happen, because not having it in either school is problematic for me, because you have kids who have respiratory issues. And so, that's an important piece. I mean, we need to do that, because you have half of Flossmoor Hills, or one side of I think it's one area that's air conditioned, and then you have another side.
About 25% of Flossmoor Hills.
Yeah, that is not. So I remember sitting, I think, in a second grade classroom or a third grade classroom, whatever, when that happened. So, I guess I just want to make sure that I'm hearing correctly what you're saying, because if not, I want to be able to pull this until we come out of executive session and table it until we come out of executive session if we need to discuss this some more. I want to make sure that I fully understand that proposing this calendar, the one that we're looking at, you're saying we need this gap of time in order to do the work that's needed. Is that correct?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So, I've heard the recommendation, why can't we just wait a year? Well, the issue will be, if you wait a year, you're cutting your construction window even shorter. So I just shared, last year, we had air conditioning to Heather. They didn't get back into the building until the week of the 15th, right? School's much larger than that, you can expect things to go wrong. So if you just use this year's calendar, for example, we had the 3 snow days.
You know, you figure there's some prep work, say they begin construction around June 14th. If they have 7 perfect weeks of work, now we're the first week of August, and we still have to clean those buildings. So about a week and a half each to clean those buildings. If anything goes wrong, there's very little buffer before all of a sudden you're talking about labor, right? So those are some of the construction challenges that we face with that. You know, we'll always have teachers who have to drop their kids off at college or have something that comes up. We'll absolutely do like we have in the past and be flexible. That's just part of life. It's a challenging job to be a teacher because those windows, you know, overlap with a number of different things. But, you know, just like, you know, we've had teachers last year that take their kids to college or these, you know, special camp situations, we will make those work. You know.
There are people too, I mean, they.
100%. Yeah. So I think, you know, on the student side, which is where we really landed on this, why this is so important, Parker sends kids to HF. HF starts typically so much earlier than this. It creates a challenge for us. In addition, as families send their high schoolers to school and their elementary kids and middle schoolers are left at home, those can create childcare issues for our families. Right? So when we're trying to make the best decisions for the community and for the kids, aligning with the high school is really our best option. We are not a high school district, we're not a unit district, but we are one community. And in the future, while we do need 3 institute days next year, in the future we can align our calendars perfectly, go to 2 institute days, you know, move 1 back into the middle of the school year, and then be almost identical to the high school, creating more opportunities to send Parker teachers up to the high school or bring HF teachers down to have articulation and make sure that, again, we talk about being aligned and delivering kids to high school that are prepared. It gives us the best chance. So, you know, the change in calendar is a change. I mean, we get out of school on May 27th, and it is a week earlier, but the pain on the front end is so that we can air condition 2 schools that don't have it right now. And we want to do that in the best way possible, trying to prevent a disaster. The facts of the matter are this. The construction projects that were started in 2017 are still not finished. The HVAC projects from last summer, we are charging $1,000 a day because they're still not finished. If we have a large-scale construction project that does not get finished, and all of a sudden we have to push school back by 1 or 2 weeks, if we're not supposed to start until the 19th or 20th, now all of a sudden we're in September, and that means we are ending the school year around June 26th, 27th. And I would think that would be unacceptable to our teachers and our parents and our students.
So based on this calendar, you would hope to start air conditioning at Western in the summer 2020 when there's more time.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So we had our initial meeting with the architects. So based on this approval, you know, bring the architects out, have conversations with the board about the scope of this work. Then if we have to go ahead, again, engage the community, have them work on a timeline. If we could get our bids onto the street by, that we talked about October, we will be in amazing shape. I mean, all that HVAC material really is somewhere 12 to 16 week lead time on the low end. We want to make sure that it's here, that it's staged, and all the work that's going to be done, you know, can start right away. Or if there are things that we can do over spring break, that we can do those. Anything that we can do to shorten that time frame, that's what we're doing.
Steve, I fully understand everything that you said, and I agree that it's important. And I think that there's tremendous value to that. You know, certainly one practical value, and this is to Mrs. Huckaby's point as well, is that, you know, August is a brutal time to be stuck in a speculating hot little greenhouse and being cooked. And I say this personally, working in the landmark building of Bloom High School, where I am cooked. You know, and I mean like I am dripping of students are melting, and it's very difficult to get people to focus. And so, just in terms of, aside from health issues, I have asthma, so I'm taking medicine, that's an inhaler. I know every kid who could possibly have a breathing issue. One of the concerns that Ms. Suckey alluded to is that, if we're moving like an additional week in a very hot time, that might be, something that you might want to consider. And so, not wanting to deviate from a plan of success, which I agree, that time is important, because you'll remember last year, we would open up one panel at Heather, and something very surprising would be there that would add on an extra week of work. And it was very interesting summers here, in fact. Certainly we want to be able to, in the long run, have this facility that really runs at an optimal level, so that August comes around and there isn't an issue where kids are melting, and there isn't an issue where it's, there's a breathing issue. Is it possible that we can look at some of these bigger issues and look for ways to sort of remediate them this summer to sort of bridge the gap with like maybe portable air conditioning a little bit, where we could do some sort of, see how much it would cost at least to have something to help out, where it's not a case of, well, I'm sorry, it's just 7 days longer, hang in there, climate change is happening. And I think that might be something. I would be interested in hearing how those conversations.
We can absolutely do that.
Yeah, because I don't think they're illegitimate concern, right? But I really appreciate the overarching thought that goes into this and the opportunities that happen. I got barraged by a series of parents who asked, "Hey, what's happening to my vacation in August?" And there's a parent at home who I live with who is going to ask me that at the moment, it's because a parent that the window has shrunk. I blew my start actually a week even earlier. So, we have a very narrow window. I blew in the face with that. So the other issue is, in terms of the summer school schedule, would that window still be open where teachers would be able to have that time, or 11-month employees have that time as well, where then they could turn around and prepare for the next year, because that there is a lot of prep work that happens, off the book, so to speak, where, yes, it's still your sort of vacation, but you're there for a good solid week, getting together with, new curriculum, getting together with initiatives, and just doing things that you're not contractually necessarily obligated to be there, but it becomes really vital.
Sure. Yeah, our teachers put in a lot of time, and I think it would absolutely be condensed for summer school teachers. I mean, that's the truth. There's no other way to say that. We would continue to offer our FIUs in July and in August, just like we have in the past. Nothing like that would change. It would just be the amount of time between the end of summer school and the start of institute days, which would be 3 weeks.
I think that's a great idea. If there's something, if we are going to approve this today, I think that it would be a great idea to find some way to make being in the building in, the hottest month of the year a lot more bearable.
Yeah, we can absolutely bring back some solutions.
Whatever.
How about buildings, not the buildings?
Yeah,
Right.
buildings, yeah, and
Of
two
course.
buildings, yeah. The other thing is that our schedule historically aligns perfectly with the Park District in terms of when their camps and things start, so maybe we need to have a conversation with the Park District around when do their camps start, because, we're getting out a week earlier. Homewood will still be on their same schedule, and camps are not going to start. So parents might, need some assistance sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I will see the local intergovernmental representatives tomorrow, so we'll start that conversation as well.
But in that, we'll make sure that we reach out to our colleagues in Chicago Heights and Hazel Crest as well, just to make sure that everyone knows. We'll just have those conversations, but I think they will be receptive to it. We just want to make sure that everybody knows about it. So we'll take care of that.
And Merle, I completely agree. I mean, for as long as I can remember HVAC conversations, 12, 13, 15 years ago, when I had my now oldest was in kindergarten. So, and the discussion then was, so who will get it first? And how do you decide which school will get it first? So I remember those conversations. So I'm looking forward
Not
to,
being a part of, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, not being a part of our safety, our life safety study, and this and that, and the other, it was something that was, it's needed, it's needed.
I'm looking forward to not having to worry about HVAC in our building. Okay, any other questions or concerns? We do appreciate the feedback though that we received from the teachers. I mean, they're, I agree, many of them are quite valid. So any accommodations and flexibility that we can allow will be great.
Everyone.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Is Cam still on the phone?
No, he's in the air.
Okay. Simmons?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes.
Briggs? Yes. Ford?
Yes, and the motion has passed. I have a motion to approve the Parker Junior High School 2019-2020 ESSA work plan.
Second.
Any discussion?
So remember, this is just the large overview, it's entered into ISB. We will need potatoes in their school improvement plan at the end of this year, also.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Simmons?
Yes.
Briggs? Yes. Paredes?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes, and the motion has passed. Can I have a motion to approve the Masters Plus tutoring contract at a cost of $18,168?
So moved.
So these are grant funds. One of the comments, as we've been talking about, the ESSA plan was, what are you going to do between now and the end of the year?
Okay, so we didn't talk, see, I knew I wasn't.
No, we had not.
I know, I about this.
No, it was one of the things that we brought, that we can start now, pick up in 3 weeks of tutoring for kids. It's already in the grant, but instead of waiting until March to approve it, and really we would start until after spring break, we can get the kids in now, get as much time as possible.
Remind us again how much the grant is in total.
Yeah, the 1003A were the funds that is under title, but it's a special part of title for schools that received the designation. The total amount for Parker was a little over $65,000. And so this $19,000 would be added to the pot of money that's paying for the Illinois Power Partner, as well as the work that we did with the Regional Office of Education to complete the work plan.
Roll call, please.
Can I just quick? So is there a, who would get the tutoring?
So the Parker administration has identified students that are not receiving something during enrichment time. So again, Mr. Hunter touched on it a little bit, we have groups of students that need additional support during enrichment time. So this would not take away from core class at all. And those students also are included in the achievement gap goal that they're targeting. And it's in addition to, that's for the during the day, but the Sunday tutoring is also open for students as part of their system as well.
Okay, so this would be, student A, we're going to assign you to this. It's really going to help you. And it's not a case of, well, I don't want it, or I would rather.
No, I mean, for the Sunday tutoring, students have to come. So, there's two pieces to it. So we have a captive audience during the school day.
Right.
Sunday, we absolutely encourage them to come, and as well as for Saturday school. And they do use standards-based materials, and they do a diagnostic assessment for both programs prior to starting, so that we get a good idea of where kids are right now. And we share their data with them as well in terms of CARC and math, so that they know where to start the students.
Okay. And are they, I've heard good things about, are they familiar with our curriculum, math and?
They are, yeah. We've done some work with them to talk them through what students are experiencing in class so that they can model that. We'll, for the ELA side, we'll be sharing a Teacher 1000 with them so students can get additional practice with that, but really focusing on the foundational skills that the students are showing deficits in based on CARC.
Okay.
So since this is a part that falls under the ESSA work plan, it would be helpful if, into the school year, we know how successful, or just some data.
Sure.
Yeah, because this isn't the first time Masters Plus contract has come for discussion that we've had at the board level. But I'm just interested to see what kind of success additional support will actually translate.
We did reach out to a couple of vendors, but we haven't had much luck with this type of program, so.
Roll call, any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Briggs? Yes. Paredes?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes, and the motion has passed. Yeah, can I have a motion, please, to approve the special education transportation contract?
No, they're just 2 daily route costs.
Okay. A motion, please.
So moved.
I'm gonna give this one to Steve. And then Merle. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay, Paredes?
Yes.
Briggs? Yes. Simmons?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes, and the motion has passed. The last item on the agenda is executive session. We have no other items that we need action on. Can I have a motion, please, to move into executive session to discuss matters relating to personnel issues 5 ILCS 120-2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you all very much for joining us.